Heels of Success is a series that promotes money matters to smart women. During each episode, Zenelia Harris will share money lessons that debunk the typical messaging you hear around women and money. So if you want to gain valuable money tips wrapped around professional advice to help you navigate your personal money and professional journey, tune in to Heels of Success. Hello, I would like to welcome you to Heels of Success, a Finance and Stilettos podcast series. I'm Zenelia Harris, author of the book Finance and Stilettos, Money Matters for the Well-Heeled Woman, certified financial planner, former member of the CNBC Financial Advisor Council, and president of Harris & Harris Wealth Management Group, a firm focused on the financial success of professional women who are going through various life transitions such as job change, marriage, widowhood, or retirement. My guest, Miss Shaunte Parker, is the team leader of the Parker Property Team. Miss Parker is a Washington, D.C. area native. She has been noted as one of the area's best real estate agents since her career began in 2005. She has been honored by her company and featured in many local publications like the Washingtonian Magazine as one of the area's top agents. For more than 2 decades, Ms. Parker served as a public school educator. As a proud lifelong educator, she continues to give back to her community schools as a volunteer and takes pride in donating a portion of every commission earned to a local public school. Ms. Parker has a love of and thirst for learning new things. She is in the know about everything real estate, special programs, development projects, communities, loan options, down payment programs, you name it, she knows it. As a veteran realtor, Ms. Parker specializes in working with sellers, buyers, and investors in the Washington metropolitan area to include Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. She is esteemed as a masterful negotiator and skillful contract writer. Ms. Parker prides herself on winning in a hyper-competitive market and is laser-focused on helping her clients achieve their goals. Let's welcome my guest, Miss Shaunte Parker, and her daughter, SeKai Parker. So good morning. I would love to welcome my guests today, Shaunte and SeKai Parker. I am so excited to have you join the conversation on Heels of Success. And I want to start off by sharing or hearing from you, Shaunte, a little bit about your professional background. And SeKai, I would love for you to share a little bit about you as well.
Okay. So I'm Shaunte Parker. Thank you so much for having us today. I am a real estate agent in the DC metropolitan area, licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. I'm a full-time realtor, which my decision to do that, I used to actually be an educator for 22 years in Prince George's County and DC public schools. But my decision to become a full-time realtor back in 2009 had everything to do with me being a full-time mother. And so I wanted the freedom to be able to be the kind of mother that I wanted to be to SeKai. And I feel that decision has paid off. So those are the 2 most important things in my life. And I'm trying my best to be successful at each of them. And I don't know if that's paid off, but I'm trying.
I think it has. I think that's a good segue for SeKai to come in and introduce herself and kind of to affirm that, you are a wonderful mother.
Yeah, so I'm SeKai. I am a current senior at the Holton Arms School. It's in Bethesda, Maryland. It's an all-girls institution. I've been there for 6 years. I'm so excited to graduate. But growing up, my mom has sacrificed so much for me, and especially this year applying to college and being in the pandemic, she's done so much that I'm so grateful for. but this is not new. This is how my mom is. Like, this is what she does. So, yeah.
This is great. This is great. So share with us, where you are in your college search. You don't necessarily have to reveal where you're going to go, but just kind of talk to us about your approach to applying to colleges and what you were looking for.
Okay. So before I even really got into the process, I had like 23, 24, 25 or so different schools on the list. And if we're being really honest, they were all like name brands, like the Harvards, Northwesterns, Dukes, and things like that. Because of course I believe that Black girls don't reach high enough, and that we can go to any school, and we shouldn't allow ourselves to be discouraged by white teachers or counselors that are supposed to quote unquote support us. So narrowing it down, I started thinking about the location. Am I going to like being in a city, or am I going to like being in a rural place, or when the college is the city? Am I going to like the student involvement, the service opportunities? I also, of course, I want to be a doctor, so I was thinking about a lot of the programs and majors available, because I don't want to stick with the basic bio pre-med or chem pre-med or physics pre-med. I want to do global health or public health on pre-med, because I really want to learn more about health disparities and how to inform medical practice in the future. So a lot of schools didn't have those types of programs, so it was very easy to just clip them. And also, I was thinking about student life also, like where are students happiest? What are they doing when they're not in school and things like that? But luckily, we got to tour over half of the schools that I applied to. So I got to see faces of students that I could possibly be with for 4 years. I got to meet some teachers that I could possibly learn from. And yeah, those are definitely good experiences, because everything that I learned on the internet about the school came alive when I got there on campus. And unfortunately, COVID stopped us from seeing the last few schools. However, I was able to do these virtual information sessions where I got to do like the student panels and meet my admissions rep and things like that. So that's been really helpful in helping me narrow down that list and figure out what I really want from a college.
I have a different perspective, if I may share.
Yes, you may.
So I think that this whole process is a very cumbersome process. And so it was important for me for her to start very early. In retrospect, I feel like we kind of started too late. If you talk to any college counselor, especially the ones at our school, which is a predominantly white institution, as she has alluded to, they will tell you, it's way too early. Don't start now. It's just, you don't want to overwhelm the child, very early on. But for me, it was really important for us to start early. So we actually started in her sophomore year. Really at the beginning of high school in 9th grade, we started thinking about college. We always knew that the goal was for her to go to college, but the journey or pathway to get there, we weren't very certain of that. Now, I think it definitely helps that I am a college educated person and have gone to different types of colleges. So I think that experience and the fact that when I applied to college, my parents had not gone to college. So it was an experience, but they set forth that goal for me at birth, that you're going to college as part of what you're supposed to do. So check that, that's something we will check off the list. So my mother, who didn't go to college, she was a federal government worker. My father was an entrepreneur. They both saved their money, because this is the money conversation. They saved their money from birth, using savings bonds, actually is what they used. And my mom had a college savings plan with her federal government job. And so they knew that, I don't think they knew the cost of college, but they knew they had to prepare for it. On top of the fact that I was also a really good student. So they knew that I probably would apply to scholarships, but they knew that they did not want me to leave college with loans. They knew that that was bad. That was not something that they wanted for me. And so the college process for me was something that I did all by myself. So I went to Elizabeth Seton, so I also went to a private type institution. And same thing with the college counselors; they were very discouraging to girls of color. They pushed the ones that they thought would be successful, and the ones that they didn't put that much time or effort into them. So I saw that, and I definitely didn't want that to happen to my own child. So for me, from the very beginning, I told her that college for us is a fiscal decision. We need to make sure that we take advantage of every opportunity because there's so many opportunities available, and we need to do our part to make sure that when we do get to that point, you will have access, which is the most important thing to me for African-American students to whatever. And like she said, it's really important for, I love the fact that she believes intrinsically, that she can do anything. And she has done all the work to get her to this point, meaning her grades, her student involvement. She's taken challenging classes, and she could tell you a little bit more about that when we get back to her. But it's been a journey where she's been discouraged every step of the way. So luckily, and that she does have someone who knows, someone who will have her back no matter what, and someone who continues to help her push those boundaries so she can put herself in the correct position that she needs to be in to get to school. For example, she's taking advanced calculus right now, which is not a class that she would have taken had we listened to them.
Right.
We would have never even got to advanced mathematics had we listened to them way early. And so she can speak more about that because it's something she's very passionate about. But I would say advice would be to definitely start early. We started visiting sophomore year. Our first schools were in New Orleans. We visited Xavier, Tulane, and Loyola.
Go.
We visited schools. So basically, I paid that forward. My mom said, wherever you go, you're going to stay.
Right.
So you got to make a very wise decision. Choose. There's no transferring and moving about. You need to make a really good choice, right?
Okay.
So I used that. I paid that forward. So she said she had saved her money, and she literally took me to every school that I applied to, which back then was only about 8 schools. And so
Right.
it was still a lot when you think, back then in the early late 80s, that was 89, when
Right.
88, 89, when she took me to those places. And so I knew that was very important for me. So I wanted to pay that forward in my own child. So I saved, I had a separate account for these trips because they're very expensive. You got to fly there.
Right.
You got to get a hotel. You got to set up with the institution what you're going to do while you're there. You want to coordinate, to make sure. I wanted to take advantage of, and she may have, the kids don't know where they're going, right? So as the parent, she knew like, okay, maybe I want to go to Atlanta to see some colleges. Okay, well, what's in Atlanta? Let's figure out how we can maximize our time there. Let's see as many schools as we can. And doing that, I think, helped put some schools on her list that maybe she wasn't exposed to or hadn't heard of. And also it helped her take some off because when she got there, she was like, oh no, this is not at all, what I thought it would be, or a place that I would ever see myself. So I think taking the time to do that was extremely important. And also her school, I think most schools do this. They have people come from the outside, representatives from schools, and they started letting juniors be a part of those conversations where they come at like lunchtime and you can meet with college reps. And I thought that was very important to encourage her to do that, take advantage of that junior year. I wish they had started it earlier because then she could have a one-on-one conversation with these people. These people are the people who are going to be reading her application because they're the area representatives. So she always went there prepared. She always had her questions. She always got their email address, and we followed up with that person after. So she laid a really great groundwork. She did the work ahead of time, and she laid a path for herself that would lend itself to where we are right now. And so the pandemic definitely, as she said, affected that, but we had started early enough that we weren't as impacted as maybe other people. So I feel like a lot of school students are going to go to colleges that they've never seen or have ever been to because of the pandemic, which is very unfortunate. And so for us, we had got the opportunity to see most of them. We didn't get to go to California, which we really wanted to do. But I think most of the schools did a really good pivot with going virtual with they did a lot of online things. Like they did virtual tours, they did virtual information sessions, they did panels, student panels. They had, students of color panels. So then I had to go to a whole different mindset where then I was now researching these schools with her. And I basically, all last summer, I set up a complete calendar for her of things that she had to participate in. Like literally she was online at schools every single day because we wanted to make sure that she had the exposure that she needed to make an informed decision. And so no one tells you to do that. So it wasn't like I knew someone asked me to do that or told me to do that. I thought this is what I need to do to make sure, given the situation, that she has as much exposure as possible. We would send emails, same thing, the same follow-up. She asked for personal Zoom conferences with different people at the institutions. And so she put her name out there for sure. And she definitely, when you think about it, like one of the schools said that they received how many? 47,000 applications.
Wow.
47,000. And so one of the schools that she got accepted to received a 40% increase in applications in the early pool. And we'll get to that later. But that's crazy. And they only chose 10% of that pool. So, and luckily she was blessed enough to be in that pool. But I feel that those relationships that she formed very early on had a lot to do with her admission. So far, she's actually applied to 18 colleges. She did 7. Is it 7?
No.
8 in the early pool. And she has been accepted to all 8. So right now we're waiting for the other 10. Which one?
Congratulations. Congratulations. So it's interesting because as I'm listening to the conversation, first of all, fantastic tips. I think I agree with you. That is going to be my approach as well. With my daughter is to start early. So you're just confirming that for me. And, I appreciate the thoughtfulness that the two of you put in to this process because you work together collaboratively in order to make this happen for you. So the fact that you're here is not happenstance. You actually put in the work, both of you. And I think that's worth acknowledging and also worth celebrating because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the fact that the two of you came up with a plan, mapped out a plan for the success of SeKai. So I think that that's fabulous. But I want to go back and touch on something that SeKai, and you kind of touched on it too, Shaunte, is the fact that you felt like you didn't get support from your counselors at school. So can you kind of give me a high level summary of what that was like and why, and the approach that you took after not receiving the support from them? Because it sounded like you may not have necessarily gotten the support that you needed in order to make all of these things happen. So can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I can. So where do I begin? Because I feel like
ninth grade
white discouragement and mistreatment is almost the pinnacle of a Black girl's experience in a white institution. As sad as it is. So I'll just talk about high school, of course. So I think this all began around 9th grade, talking about math. My mom brought that up, actually. So
can I just say one thing real quick and then you finish? In order to go to any of these institutions, especially these elite private schools, you have to take an entrance exam. And when you take that entrance exam, very early on, she took the exam in 6th grade because we were applying to middle school. School. So she took it as a 11-year-old, kid, right? So there's no prep or anything. You just go in there. Yeah, you just go in there and you take the test. So we had no idea that test, though, informed everything that happened after that. And so no matter how she did on the test, it served as their placement tool for putting her in whatever classes they felt that the test showed she should be a part of. So
let me add on to that because I wasn't the full picture, because you take the standardized test to get into the school, but then once you get to the school, you have to take placement exams in language, English and writing, and math. And so the math test was in May. So I'd been out of school for several months at this point, and they didn't offer any review materials. And so I thought it was just, a random test that we just took just to see where our math level was at. Like, it wasn't going to determine my entire math and science track for all of my time at the school. So yeah, I was in 6th grade. I was messing around. It was summertime. Like, I wasn't thinking about what was on the test. And I hadn't reviewed that stuff since I was in class. And so I was set up to not do well, as most of the white students hadn't either. But I was placed in remedial courses. And this is something that I thought was where I was supposed to be in middle school, because that's what the school thought where I was supposed to be. But then I noticed that a lot of my white peers were asked to move up or asked to switch classes because they were doing so well when our grades were the same. If not, mine were better. And so then when I got to upper school, I was in those lower classes, but I knew that reaching high and going to these elite schools in the future, this is not a place I wanted to be. And I knew that I wasn't challenging myself. So I did everything in my power to ask to move up, to take the necessary courses, to do whatever I needed to do to move up. And so I had to get approval from advisors, from my math teachers in the past, and my math teacher in the present. And then I had to sign off. And my mom had to spend a significant amount of dollars for me to take math classes over the summer to move up. And then as soon as you get to course registration, which is right before the year ends, I get there with everything in line, and then a teacher who doesn't even know me, never seen my face, only saw those 5 letters on a piece of paper, said, "I don't think this is for you. I don't think you can do it. It's never been done. I don't think you're able to do it." And things like that. And at that moment, like, I had everything in line, and I was just completely disheartened. And so I was trying not to cry at that table because I had everything together. Like, I didn't see what the problem was. And plus, she didn't know who I was.
Right.
And so she gave me back the course paper and told me that I needed to rethink my decision. And so then it was really hard for me. And I left school in tears because I was just like, no one really cares about what I'm trying to do. Like, they care about upholding this system that they were taught to, like, continue to hold Black girls into these remedial courses. Therefore, there's disproportionate numbers of Black girls not getting the highest honors, or not being in the cum laudes, or not being in the secret societies, or not being these STEM scholars or global scholars and things like that.
Yeah, I want to just interject real quick. When she's saying remedial courses, that's not how they sell it to you, because, by no means would I have ever agreed to that.
Right, right.
I know my kid is not remedial at all, but the way they sell it to you is that, there are 3 different courses. So it may be pre-cal A, pre-cal B, and, pre-cal advanced. And so how they sell it to you is that, it's the same material. It's just a smaller class size. And we just want to make sure that, the pacing is right for her. Where she's still taking pre-cal. That's how they sell it to you. So you're like, okay. Especially as a middle school student who's, she came from a very small school, like 200 kids, thrusted into a much larger environment where there's almost 800 kids. And so, like, I'm just learning this process too, as she's learning the process. But the whole time, she was the top of her class in every class. So I started asking questions too, like, wait, she's not being challenged. Why is she in this class and she has 100% average? Like, what? Clearly she doesn't need to be here. Like, how can we move her out of here so she can become more challenged? And they would always basically tell me no, that we can't be, and they never said why. They never said it was based on, the previous test score or anything like that.
Right.
They would say, like, her teachers believe that, this is the right placement. This is where she, she's doing well, Mom. Like, why do we want to move her? She's doing well. So go ahead. I just wanted to add that part.
No, that's powerful, because a lot of times as you go through this process, you're learning. That's why this conversation is so important, because I feel like we need to share this information with people, because there are a lot of people who are thriving or striving to position their children to get into these elite private schools, and they need to know what to expect. And so it's interesting that you're giving your personal experience. I've read some articles as well about the treatment of Black and brown children who attend these schools, and the fact that it can be emotionally and mentally damaging because of the fact that they're not challenged, the fact that they're uh, isolated, the fact that they are told what they can and cannot accomplish. And so I guess I want to go to, how did you build up SeKai's internal value system in that type of environment?
Can I actually answer this question?
Yes, you may.
Okay. So after the whole situation happened, I came to my mom first, and I don't know, I think that was my first realization that microaggressions were being thrown at me on the daily, and being in those courses was a microaggression in itself.
Right.
And so it reminded me of why I was there in the first place. We sacrifice driving 45 minutes to an hour every morning and every night to get to this place so I can have those opportunities to go to those schools. And because I'm good enough, if not better, than a lot of my peers, and I'm worthy enough to be a student at that school. And she reminds me that whatever other people may assume about me, that's never true, and that I need to stay true to myself and think about why I'm there and think about what my purpose is in the end. And by then I was a sophomore, I want to say. So she was like, I mean, there's only 2 years left. You got this. Mom.
Yeah, but also I feel like, as a parent, all I wanted for her was the best education possible. And for me, especially because I am an educator, former educator, I know all the different schools that are in our area. We live in Prince George's County, one of the wealthiest counties, in America. Yet our school system doesn't reflect that we live in one of the wealthiest counties in America. I was a public school teacher, so I would always be very saddened by the disparities just in that. How can my taxes be $10,000 a year living in Bowie, Maryland, but my schools suck? My schools are, less than a 5, out of 10.
Right.
We got 3s and 4s. So living here in a quote unquote neighborhood for people of color, I'm driving my kid an hour so she can get a opportunity to have the best education money can buy. So I knew that, to me, it was about the exposure. It was about the different types of classes that she would be able to take. It was about, making sure that she is having every opportunity that she could participate in, just the arts in itself. A lot of schools don't even have art anymore. She gets to not only go there and play her violin that she was playing back then, but she can be in the chorus. She can be in an a cappella group. She can, it's just so many different opportunities. They have their own pool. She can do the swim team. She learned to do crew. They believe in exposing kids to all different sports. She would have never learned about crew, anywhere else.
Right.
Crew used to be one of her favorite sports. She did volleyball. So it was just, she's been to so many different conferences. So for me, the good definitely outweighed anything else. And also I just felt it was really important for me to keep her grounded. So we're going over there, she calls it teleporting to different worlds. We're going over there, but we are going to make sure that you have great footing, in your own neighborhood. I'm going to make sure you're involved in activities like a Kingfish swim team, where you're with kids that look like you, the kids that are exactly like you, and parents like me, where we're all navigating the same thing. And so that was really important for me. And I feel like that, she was still involved in Girl Scouts, and her Girl Scout troop was at Ebenezer Church in Fort Washington. And so we just made sure that she had all the support that she needed. I also kept a very tight pulse on everything that was going on. So at her school, they believe in self-advocating. So I would say, whenever you send your emails, make sure you CC your mama on it. So we get, so they can know that someone else is looking at these emails. And it was very hard for me not to get involved a lot of the time, because I do believe that's a great skill, and it has gotten her to this point. She's very good at self-advocating. And of course it was a build up. She had to learn to do that. But I think me having eyes on it was very important, because sometimes I would go behind her and say, hey, what is this about? I have questions.
Yeah.
I'm a paying customer here, so I could ask you whatever I want to ask you. And so,
Right.
and I would challenge, in a very educated way, I would challenge some of the things that they would tell her or say to me. And so that boldness, definitely, and that knowing who we are and whose we are helped us to really navigate their system. And so once we figured out how to navigate their system, then it was smooth sailing after that. She actually ended up with the head of school as her advisor. And I think that was, I don't believe anything happens by accident. So the sophomore year, the pivoting point in her high school career, the head of school was her advisor, and the head of school had to be faced with this is really happening in your school. Like you may not have been aware of it, but this is really happening in your school. And so she really encouraged us to push forward, and she was the one who approved SeKai to take the classes.
Though she was very reluctant.
She was very reluctant. She was the one who signed off on SeKai being able to take these classes outside of the school. And I'm telling you, anything that they could have done to make it impossible, they was like, oh, well, the cost, it's going to be so exorbitant. The cost, it's going to be a few $1,000s taking a class outside, and you can only take it at this place, which was even further than her school, was in Potomac. And it was how many days? It was every day from like 8 to 3 every day for what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
A month.
Oh, yeah, 5 weeks.
A month.
And then on top of that, she had to, because basically they're doing a whole year's math class in a month.
Right,
It was very fast paced. When her first couple of days, it was like a whirlwind, and she was crying like, Mom, I don't think I could do this. I'm like, oh no, you can do it. You said you can do it. We're going to do it together. Whatever you need. It's summer. Like, you can't turn your brain off. You gotta employ all the strategies that you employ while you're in regular school. We got to do that here. If you need support, if you feel like you need some additional help, I'll do whatever I got to do, which being an entrepreneur allowed me to do that. I would bring my computer. I would take her early so she could meet with her teacher. We would get there at 7 a.m. I would stay late. She met with a student who had graduated, so in a tutorial capacity. And they all said, SeKai doesn't need tutoring. She's out of her comfort zone. She just needs more confidence. Her math, she's actually really good at math, but she needs to know that she's good at math. And so, which I thought I was doing by sending her to an all-girls school, right?
Yes.
So she, that summer really transformed her life and her trajectory in that school. And we didn't say the summer, was that sophomore year when they wouldn't let you take advanced Spanish too? Was that the same year?
That was great, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. So, and I had to have a conversation. Her teacher had recommended her to take an advanced Spanish class, and it had to go to the department. And when it got to the department head was telling me, well, I don't think that she's ready for it. I'm like, what do you mean you don't think that she's ready for it?
The teacher didn't recommend me. I wanted to do it. They recommended me for bio, and then they were like, no. But for Spanish, the woman was just like, no, she doesn't participate. She
said all these things. I'm like,
all these random things that just don't make sense. Like, how do you have a 97 and don't participate and don't do homework?
I'm like
please don't do math.
And I was like, I need you to give me empirical data. Tell me what is this based on? What is because it sounds like it's your opinion. I don't know how you believe that. How can you tell a parent who knows the data, who knows, and a child wants to do this. She wants to challenge herself. She has a 97 average, one of the highest in the class. How can you tell her that she's not allowed to push herself? If she chooses to do that and she fails, that decision or onus of that decision should be on her. It shouldn't be on you stopping her from that exposure. And I just got so angry in that conversation. That was probably one of the first times that I really got angry, because I could see the roadblock being put up. And you think I'm stupid. Like what you're saying doesn't make any sense. And so I went back to the head of school and I was just like, this is racism. And the head of school was like, no, it's, no, I don't think she meant it in that way. No, it's racism. She's telling me that my child can't do the work, and she's never met my child. She's never been in class with my child. She's not basing this on anything but her personal decision. And
and my friend, she's a Latina, but she's white. Like, her last name, of course, is Spanish, but they
right.
like it because they're like, well, she does Spanish at home. Like, of course she's going to do well. No, like she does not
like,
know
no, she
a word
doesn't.
of Spanish. Like, how do you not think that's like racist?
Yeah. And so basically we were able to overcome a lot that year. And from that point forward, it was like SeKai has truly excelled in everything. She's currently taking 5 classes, 4 of which are advanced or honors or AP or whatever. But she would have never gotten to that point. And it was so funny. At the end of her year that year, the head of school, who was her counselor, said to me personally, I'm so glad you guys did that. And she was like, I'm so proud of SeKai. And I couldn't tell you, that you should do it, but I'm so glad that you pursued it. I'm so glad that she did it and she did so well at it. And I was just looking at her like, what?
Yeah, because to be able to move up at the school, you had to take like 3 exams. I want to say 4.
Right.
Exams. 2 of the other school's exams and then 2 of the Holton exams, but they weren't trying to let me take the exams to get to the class.
No,
so
or give her any idea what was on the test. And I'm like, I had to even argue for that. Like, no, you're giving her a test that she's not taking the class here. So how do we know that what she's learning at this one school is in line with what you're teaching? At least give me the talking, like the topics, so we can make sure that she's learning those same things in the class that she's taking.
We had to beg while my classmate who also moved up got everything without even asking.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
wow.
This is ridiculous.
And after the class was over, they were not trying to give her the final exam. They wanted like 4 more weeks to go by where she would have been sitting idle with this information in her head to take the test. And I argued so hard, like, no, that's not fair. She should be able to take this test now while the information is fresh in her mind. We want to go on vacation. We don't want to sit around and think about geometry.
Right.
We want to take the test now. And she took the test and killed that test. It wasn't
wow. Mm-hmm. Right. So now so then when so we're going to pivot a little bit and kind of talk about like where you are now. Mm-hmm. And so did you all have a plan in regards to what types of scholarships you were going to apply for? Because I do understand like a lot of people at this, if once you get to a certain income range, you're not going to get need based. Yeah. So it's all merit based scholarships. And so can you talk to us about that strategy that you all use to obtain? So and also SeKai, say how many scholarships you have obtained to this point.
Okay, let me go
the
first.
The total dollar amount.
Yeah. So we went to a conference actually sponsored by our sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, that was at Flowers High School, and it was probably between her sophomore and her junior year that we attended this conference. And it was on a Saturday, and it was like a college fair, but they had a lot of workshops at this thing. And so it was probably when I really had to stare in the face the cost of college, when I don't think that I really considered the cost before. I don't think most people have any idea the exorbitant cost that college is going to bear on their family. And so when I went to Spelman was back then, my parents paid in full. Spelman back then was $16,000 for the year and room and board, everything. Now Spelman is $50,000, $60,000. So, and it doesn't matter if it's a HBCU, a state school, whatever. College costs more than $50,000 a year, period. Some schools cost in the range of $80,000 a year. So depending on where the school is, there are schools. I remember we visited NYU, and when we got that price tag and it was $88,000 a year, I was like, what? Like I could not believe that college cost that much money. And so in addition, I've had several conversations with friends who have kids that are older, who are now in college. So I feel like there's actually a really good group on Facebook called Black and Brown and College Bound. And I entered that group probably when she was a sophomore as well. And it's very resourceful because people talk about scholarships in there. They talk about their own experiences. They give a lot of advice in there. So I started, following different groups and really taking part in those conversations. But at that conference that we went to at Flowers, they said, you need to have a sit down with their child and have a really good, open, honest conversation. Have you prepared for college? Have you saved money? You need to tell your child where you are. Do you have? And I looked at her and I was just like, I have not prepared in the way that I should have because I did not know that college cost this much money. So for us, this is going to be truly a fiscal decision.
Right. And also because I want to go to professional school and possibly pursue an MD, PhD track, I'm going to be in school for a really long time.
Yeah.
And so coming into grad school with debt from undergrad just is ridiculous. And my mom was already upset that college already cost this much. Plus she dealt with her own loans.
Yeah.
So it was just like, we can't do this again.
Yeah, and one of the bad things that happened to me, like I told you, my parents prepared, but I wanted to go on to graduate school, and they basically their funding stopped at undergrad. So although I left undergrad with no debt, no loans or anything, I went to graduate school, and that's when I started taking out the infamous student loan. And I basically am very in debt with student loans, over $200,000 in student loans. And what's crazy about that is I'm a realtor. I'm not even like what I went to school all that time for is not, I'm not even using that. So I have student loans for basically no reason. And so from my own personal experience, I did not want her to have to do that ever at any part of her career. So for us, when I say it's a fiscal decision, that's what I mean. We will not be prey to the student loan program. So how can we circumvent that process? What can we do? So we knew income-based that we probably would not qualify for need-based aid. Most colleges or all colleges have a net price calculator on their website where you can put in your income and you can see what it's going to be. And I did that several times, pretty much at all the schools that she was interested in starting in sophomore year. And I saw, okay, yeah, I'm not going to get any money. They're not going to help me. So how are we going to figure this out? Now they say on their website, if you make, all of them say this because it's a push with the Department of Education. If you make under $75,000 a year, you'll qualify for need-based aid, pretty much a full ride. If you make under $125,000 a year, technically you should qualify for a tuition. But the room and board is what is still going to cost you. And I've found that that's still like $30,000. Not to mention, how are you going to support your child while they're there? Because they're going to need money, for all the other incidental things outside of college. So when you're talking $30,000, you might as well say $40,000. So we're still talking $200,000 in 4 years. So how are we going to do that? So we started when we were applying to colleges, and this is a tip that no one tells you, right? So when we were applying to colleges, we realized very early on that there are different application types. So you can do early decision, you can do early action, or you can do regular decision. But the caveat is you need to understand that financial aid also has deadlines. Most schools, the financial aid deadline is January 1st or February 1st. However, if you want to qualify for merit-based dollars, they have a whole secret deadline that they don't really advertise. So there's a deadline of December 1st. Some of them are November 1st to be in the pool for merit-based aid. So had I not found that out and done the research, we would have not known that. So my application to, schools A, B, and C may not have been due to January 1st, but I need to do them in November if I want to put her in a pool for merit-based dollars. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's powerful, knowing these deadlines. Wow.
Yes. So what we did, we made a calendar of, I went and did all the research for, because this is very hard for a kid to do. I mean, she's a kid, number one, and she has to focus on school and doing well in school. She can't focus on all this other stuff. So what I did was I did my research. I made a spreadsheet of all the schools and the deadlines. And so we knew when the merit-based application had to be in, if they had any separate merit scholarships that she can apply for, like they may have an honors program, they may have, a presidential scholarship, whatever they have, that was on one list. And then I took the time to make a different list of how we're going to apply to those colleges. So what we did was, we started in, like if they were due November 1st, we had because we did early action. So early action, since we were having to do it anyway for financial aid, we went on and did early action, because what early action means is that it's non-binding. You get your application in early, you get a decision early. So technically by the end of that year, so by Christmas time, you should know if you're in any of those schools. So that actually took a lot of the weight off, because at least we knew by the Christmas that she was in 7 of the schools. So if all else fails, she got a place to go. And we also started finding out about the merit-based dollars then as well. So a lot of them also, because of the COVID and the exorbitant amount of applications, some of them pushed into January. In fact, we just found out about another one recently, but like one of the largest scholarships that she got is $60,000, and it's a community service scholarship. And they only give 2 out. And so out of all those applicants, which was over 4,000 applicants so it's the institution, and then our institution had, can I say that name?
Fine.
Okay, she don't want me to say her name. So, but I just have to give it an example. So, okay, so she applied to Tulane University in New York. Okay. So Tulane has Tulane honors. It has merit-based dollars, but then they have Tulane scholarships that were also due around the same time. So the application was due November 1st, but then Tulane scholarships were due, let's say, December 15th. And so there was a community service award. There was, and they have scholarships in the name of people who have set up scholarship awards. So yes, they were all separate applications, but that takes a lot of planning in itself, because they're different questions. So although she did all these essays for her college application, she had to do a whole, other set of essays for these scholarships. So that's why the proper planning is so important. Taking the time to engage your kid in a writing class, I think, would be extremely great advice, because it's so much writing. The writing, like, to me, so many students are smart. So many students are doing very well academically, but I don't believe, like, now that I've done this process, that it's the grades that get them where they need to go. It's the overall picture. You want them to be a well-rounded student. You want the writing tells it all, because they want to know, who are you? What do you have to offer? And what do what is the advantage of us picking you as a student? What do you bring to the table? And so the writing is really important, because that's where she gets to showcase that, but also her involvement as a student. And that community service award, which was $60,000 that she won from Tulane, the letter was so incredible, because it spoke to her journey as a leader of diversity at her school. And she could tell you more about that. What? Go. She could tell you, sorry, she's ad-libbing. But she doesn't know the number, but I'll just tell you. So she's received merit-based dollars at almost every institution that she's been accepted to so far. So it's either a presidential award. Tulane is the only community service-based award, but most of them are awards based on her merit, which is her academic performance thus far.
Right. I think some advice for students, I'd say, is when you go to these admissions sessions, or when you find a representative, it's important to ask, like, what is your scholarship profile? And there they can tell you about the need-based opportunities, but also let you know if there are merit opportunities, because some schools don't do merit-based scholarships, because otherwise everyone would have a merit-based scholarship, because everyone is intelligent and everyone works extremely hard. And also, like, when it's okay to appeal your financial decision, it's okay to say, this is not enough for me. Of course, in a respectful way, but saying, like, I work so hard and I really want to go to this school, but I don't have enough money to go. And basically list out your credentials. Or you can compare your aid package from one school that's of similar caliber and say, can you make a package that's comparable to this one? However, we haven't had experience, because I've gotten merit dollars from a lot of these institutions.
Well, so in total, she's received $961,933 in
Woohoo!
in merit-based aid. And so I do want to add, she's 100% right, because I heard that in one of my groups. Yes, definitely appeal those aid decisions. So this is another thing I want to add that people don't know about, and I had no idea. Her college counselors, okay, so the school went through what they went through this summer, and they hired all new counselors. And so we have a really good relationship with our college counselor, and she's also a single mom like me. And so she has a special affection for SeKai. So she has definitely told us a lot of, and I talk to her all the time. And so one of the things she told me is that schools have the FAFSA that you have to complete, but they also have the CSS profile. And a lot of people don't even know or even heard of the CSS profile. And so the CSS profile, so FAFSA, basically you use your tax returns and you tell them, it's all numbers. So they don't care. They crunch the numbers. They have a formula. You put in those numbers and they come up with an expected family contribution, which when I see mine, I'm like, there's no way they think that I can afford that. But they do, right? Based on what you put in. And so it doesn't take into account anything else. It doesn't take into account, what you have to pay for, what your expenditures are, COVID, how many other dependents you may have. It doesn't take any of that into consideration. So they created the CSS profile, which is through College Board, which gives a more reflective picture of your financial situation. And it also gives you room to explain. And so, you can put in that, I, am a real estate agent and my business is, whatever, or you can, whatever you want to put in, or I take care of, my elderly parent who lives with me. I'm a single parent. So I was able to take that opportunity to apply for, because they expect both parents' information. And so if you're in a situation like mine, where you're a single parent 100% and the other parent does not contribute, the College Board CSS profile gives you an opportunity to request a waiver. So there's a student, non-custodial parent student waiver form that I had to fill out, which basically explains his involvement is none. And so each school has had to approve that form. And so then it makes your financial picture clearer to them.
Right.
And most schools use that profile. So I had to send separate reports. I had to do a whole nother, set of applications. I had to upload all my financial stuff again. But, and also if you're like us and you're applying to more schools, you can only put in 10 schools at a time. So with FAFSA, I could put in 10 schools. With CSS profile, I could actually put in as many as I wanted. So I put in all the things, but the follow-up, the fortune is in the follow-up. So this is another tip. You have to call these people to make sure, A, that they got the application, and B, that they downloaded it from whatever respective place, from FAFSA or from College Board, because then you have to move them out the way and put the next set of colleges in there, which you can't do that if they haven't downloaded the file. So that's a tip I got from my counselor. And she was like, Shaunte, I know you don't want to do this, but you literally have to call every school or email them or whatever to make sure that they have SeKai's profile. And by doing that, I found out that when we did the college Common App, that's the application that you do now, I mistransposed her social security number. So actually by 2 numbers. And so I reversed the numbers, like a 5 and a 4. I put them in reverse order. Inadvertently, I didn't mean to do that. But But what happened was, because I did that on her college application, it didn't match with her financial aid. So nobody told me that. I just was like, why haven't they downloaded the information, or why? So I had to go back and figured it out. It was, we actually talked to one school. I'm like, what do you mean she's not going to get any merit-based aid? Like, she's like, well, we haven't received your documents. I'm like, well, why haven't you? So that's how we found out. And so I had to go back and call every school and get that fixed in admissions. And then from that point, we were able to do it. But if I wasn't on top of it, this is a full-time job.
Right. It sounds like it.
It's a full-time job for the parent as well as the student. And so, but you don't know what you don't know. And so I've learned a lot in this process, and I do want to continue to share it, because I feel that most of us don't know that we don't know this information, or we don't know the correct questions that we need to ask. So I've told all my friends about the CSS profile who go to different schools, and many of them are in private schools as well. Their school never told them that. So they didn't know that they needed to take that extra step. So I think that's really important to know.
Also, we are missing from this conversation is these outside scholarships from companies, organizations, nonprofits, and things like that, churches, sororities, fraternities. One person we met at that scholarship conference was this woman, I forgot her name, but her company is called Dough for Degrees. And she was telling her story about how she went to Virginia Tech for free because she got so many scholarships from so many companies and third-party places. And so she makes it her goal to help other students get to where she is. And so her advice is to like reach out to maybe your minister, because your church may have a scholarship for students if you're involved in the church. And Foot Locker has a scholarship for students.
Yes, I'm familiar with Foot Locker scholarship. Yes, they sure do.
Right. Yeah. And also, like, you can think of a company that you like to eat from, Chick-fil-A or McDonald's. They like to fund students to go to college.
So that's the path that we're on right now. So although we were done with the college application process, back in basically in January, we completed that. So now we're on a path for outside dollars. And so FastWeb is one of those places where you can go. Like, I get an email pretty much multiple times a day where you put a profile in, and then it'll tell you what you qualify for. Hey, we just this morning when I woke up, we found $100,000 in scholarships that you qualify for. And so because you have the profile already set up, it's easy to apply. And a lot of them don't even require essays, but this is the second leg of the full-time job, applying for the money. So I believe the more the merrier. So I believe you can't have too much. And so for me, the journey is not over, although it's a lot of work and it's completely survival of the fittest. Like, I make it my business every day. I look in there and I apply for something for her. Which is, and so like one of the institutions, when we were talking about the whole appeal of the situation, they initially gave her $1,500, right?
Wow.
of a grant. And it was laughable. And I'm like, what? In the whole scheme of 60,000, you gave me 1,500. And so I sent an email to the admission staff, basically saying, I want you to reconsider. And these are the reasons why. I know that all your students are smart. I know that all of them bring a wealth of everything to the table. But let me tell you about my daughter and why she particularly deserves this. And the lady wrote me back and she was like, thank you for your email. We will take this into consideration. And 2 days later, she got a $25,000 STEM scholarship from them.
Yeah.
Was perfect, and it wouldn't have happened had we not advocated, for her. Right. And so for us, that's $60,000. Okay, now 25 of it is taken care of. And that's another thing. You want to make sure the money is renewable. So who cares if you get all this aid for your first year, but what about the other 3, that you need to be there? So I'm making sure that these and most of them have a grade point average that she has to maintain. It's totally doable, but some of this money is not for 4 years. So that's another thing we're making sure. And so, so for us, if we're able to, so she hasn't made a decision at all yet. She probably won't until the final day, which is May 1st. But what I'm trying to do is create a pool of money that money won't be the reason why she chose to go somewhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I want her to be able to make a real decision based on where she feels her heart's desire, where she feels she will flourish best. And I don't want money to be the reason why she has to be pigeonholed or choose something. So if all things considered, if the money is on the table or not on the table, I guess, then she can make the best decision for herself. So that's what we're doing.
Okay. Right. Well, this has been such a full conversation. Very, very thoughtful, very informative. I want to say thank you, SeKai and Shaunte, for sharing this journey that you all are on. And I know that, SeKai, you're going to be great because this is preparing you for the real world, really. Because you're gonna have to do this, use those negotiation skills when you get into the workplace as well. So I just think that is beautiful. It is so beautiful, and it's showing the strategies, it's showing the determination, it's showing the thought process that you both took to achieve this success of over $900,000 so far, and counting, in scholarships. So thank you. So Shaunte, if you could, please share your social media information for those who may want to reach out to you if they're interested in purchasing a new home, downsizing, whatever they may be interested in doing, they can reach out to you.
Okay, thank you. For Instagram, I am DC Real Estate Mommy and also Parker Sales DMV. My website is the same, parkersalesdmv.com. Facebook, I'm Shaunte Roberts Parker, and on LinkedIn, I'm also Shaunte Parker, and Twitter, I'm Parker Sales DMV.
Oh, thank you so much. This was wonderful. I appreciate both of you sharing, taking time to share today. And I am so looking forward to seeing how this journey pans out for you, SeKai. So I just want to say congratulations, because I know it's going to be awesome. And I am so excited that we got to interview you today and for you to share your insights.